Welcome back, NR204. This is lesson 5.2, Summarizing Data in Excel. So just as a background, this assignment is going to be based on an assignment from Forestry 462, Hydrology. And the intent of this assignment is to view the different environmental data collected by some different sensors and remove the flawed data. And then we'll be plotting and comparing the temperature and relative humidity of an area on the Fraser Experimental Forest for a period of time to see how they change in relation to each other. And this is a pretty common task, to take a document that's not already an Excel file and bring it into Excel, so you'll get to practice that. Your assignment is going to be using the datasets provided and follow the step-by-step instructions in this document to organize and summarize the information. For this exercise, it's not necessary that you understand, again, the full scope of the original assignment. The point here is that you can work through these steps and understand how you can create the graph at the end. The deliverable is going to be, again, this spreadsheet that you work on with your last name at the end. And you'll be posting that spreadsheet to BBLearn and then completing the quiz on BBLearn. Alright, so let's get started. So first we're going to open a blank Excel document. So just click on Excel. It'll take a little bit to load. Now, this is being 2013. This looks quite a bit different than what the other one, the older versions look like, but either way, you're going to be opening a blank document. All right, so once you're here, we want to go to Open. I'm going to select my computer. I'm not a real big fan of the way that this new Word has these features, but right, so we want to go to our 204 folder and into Excel and your folder for summarizing data. Now, as you can see, the only things that are showing up are the Excel documents, and for you there won't be any of those yet. So instead, I'm going to change it down here to all files, so I'm going to see everything I have. And I'm interested in these two files here. So first I'm going to select the .dat document or file there and open. So then I get this dialog box that comes up with how I want to display things. And so for the first one, I'm just going to click Next without changing anything. Next, I'm going to select comma. So if you look at the data here, you can see it, and the numbers are each separated by a comma, and so I know that that's how they're going to be delimited. So check comma, and then you can see that information then goes into columns. And then we also want to uncheck tab, and we click Next. And now that's all we need to do. So we'll click Finished. And so here we have our data is displayed. So because we have some information in here, we don't want to lose our work. We're going to do Save As and Summarizing Data folder. And I want to make sure that I'm saving it as an Excel spreadsheet. And save it as this, change the last name to mine, save. Alright, so now that we have the data displayed in Excel, we need to find the names for each of these columns, because right now this information doesn't mean a whole lot to us. So you're going to go to My Documents area and your 204 class and Excel and lesson 5.2, and you're going to find this FSL document. So you can try and double click on it, and since I have already opened it, it opens right up for me in Notepad. You may need to right click on it and specify what program you'd like to open it with. That's open with here, and you can specify Notepad or WordPad to open that document. So it's recommending it for me, so I'll say that. Alright, so now that we have it open, we're going to go back to our Word document here, and we have saved that. So I'm going to insert a row, so I'll click here, right click, and say insert, and that row is going to go above. And I'm going to make this row bold, so I do Control B, so all the information in this row is going to be bold. And now I'm going to use my Alt-Tab button to switch back and forth here, and I'm going to label each of these columns with the name here. So I'm copying and then pasting. This will take a little bit. Feel free to fast forward. Now when you get to these last three, it looks like these columns are empty, but if you scroll down here, then you have the information. So go ahead and continue to enter these 3 columns. All right. So one thing that I'd like to do so that I can see this all better is go to the View tab, and I want to freeze the top column, and I'll show you what that does. You can play around with this. You can either freeze a column, or you can freeze a row. We're going to freeze a row, or you can freeze kind of a corner section of things. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if I freeze the top column, top row, then I can scroll through the information, and that column or the row labels stay. If I want to freeze a corner, let's say I had a label also on the left, then I would put my cursor somewhere. Let's say I want to freeze the top row and the most left column. Then I would freeze these. Well, first I have to unfreeze. Then I would freeze these panes. So then I can scroll left and right, and you can see that the ID column is still showing, and I can scroll up and down, and so it's just a really handy way if you have a large amount of data to sort through. So we want to unfreeze, and then we just want to freeze the top row. The other thing we want to do is make this an active table in Excel. So we want to, in the Insert tab, click Table, and it wants us to specify an area. So right now it's smart, so it picked the area that we have data, and we're fine with that. So, and we want the table as headers. So then it already pulls those in for us. So now we have a couple different features that we can take advantage of here. Mostly sorting. You can easily sort each column. So now that we've done this work, we want to click Save. Alright, now we're going to move into organizing our data. So environmental data, by its nature, is really messy, and there are frequently values that need to be removed from analysis. In this case, any row that is missing data or contains a value of -6999 needs to be deleted. So our job now is going to be to go through each of these columns and delete the bad data. Now, this seems like a lot of work, but that's part of dealing with environmental data, and you certainly will have to deal with that in the College of Natural Resources, and especially for this class. So this is good skill to get down. This will also help you practice your sorting skills and your highlighting and deleting skills. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sort from smallest to largest. So we can use the drop-down arrow here. So these are all stationary, but we'll do them as well just to check. So we'll go here and sort smallest to largest and just see if there's anything that needs to be removed. So already we've got this row will be removed because this is invalid data. So I'm going to right click here and delete this row. Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing for this one, smallest to largest. So again, we've discovered a row of invalid data, and we'll delete that. And here, smallest to largest. This one looks like there aren't any bad rows. Smallest to largest. That looks okay too. Smallest to largest. Okay, so here we've got two rows that contain -699. The other negative numbers are fine, so let's highlight those two and delete. And we do the same here. Those look all fine. Negative number, which is fine. So this one has quite a bit more, so we're going to highlight every one that has -699. Pull this down. It seems like kind of a waste. You have some observations that have all the other values, but we want observations that are containing all the information that we need, so we're going to remove all these ones. So I'm just holding down my left click and pulling this down. So now it's moving pretty fast. So you can see on the right. Oop. So I passed it there. Another way is you can click the top row and then you can scroll down and find it and then press Control and then click the last row containing -699. So I'm going back up because I passed my, there we are. Okay. Now, so we had, looks like 1760, so it's quite a bit. We'll delete that. And we'll do this row. I think that one, we deleted all of them in the previous deletion. This one, that one looks good. Those ones all look good. Alright, we found some more. So we'll go over here and delete. There we are. 121 of those. Alright. That one looks good. And you can see which one you're on. You've just done, there's a little arrow in the one that we've just done, so that kind of helps you keep track of where you are. And if you notice that when you sort them, all of the other sorts, so each of the rows are kept together, which is really important. Okay, so we're done getting rid of our bad data. So now we should have 5,643 rows, so let's check. Scroll all the way to the end of the data. 5,643. Okay, so we're good. Now we are going to plot the data. So first we need to create a new column. So currently there are 2 columns for showing the timing of the observations. We've got day and time, but we need this information to be in one column for the way that we're going to sort our information. So on column E, we're going to click Insert, which moves the column to the left, and we are going to change the name of that column to decimal day. And for this one, we're going to enter an equation. So we're going to use our equal sign. That's how we create an equation, if you remember from the last lesson. And we are going to enter a formula. Now, it's a pretty long formula for creating decimal day. And decimal day is based on Julian day. If you don't know what Julian day, then you can look that up. It's just a numerical day for the year. Each day of the year gets a unique value. What you can also do is you can go to your exercise and you can copy and paste it. There we are. I'm going to copy and paste this whole thing. So notice that since I've typed it in, it recognizes those other columns, and so I'm going to press enter. Now, Excel being smart the way it is, it's already populated all of the values down the whole data set, which is really convenient. So now we're going to right click on the E column here, and we're going to do Format Cells. And we want this to be a number. So my Excel is not responding, so this is actually a valuable learning opportunity. Sometimes Excel just decides to take a little while or not work, so that's why it's important to save frequently. Also, just wait a little bit and sometimes it comes back. So we want this to be a number. Okay. Alright, so now we are going to create a plot to display the temperature information over the time period that information was being observed. So the first thing we need to do is resort this column E. If we don't sort it from smallest to largest, then it won't display right. So click here on the arrow and sort smallest to largest. Alright, now we need to select column E and column K, which is the average air temperature. So I'm going to hold down my control button and click column K. Now on the Insert tab, I'm going to select a scatter plot with smooth lines right here. Alright, so we have a nice little graph here, but we have a bunch of blank space over here to the left and some blank space on top, so we're going to format the axes so that it cuts those blank spots out. Alright, so to do that, we need to select the x-axis, so I'm going to just click on somewhere on the x-axis and right-click and select Format Axis. And again, this is one of those places that looks different for previous versions of Excel, but the same idea. We want to change the minimum number here to 45, press enter, and the maximum to 95. For older versions, you'll have to select fixed to change those numbers. And I also want to change where it's positioned. I don't want it in the middle of my information here, so I'm going to change the label position to low. Looks much better. Alright, so I'm going to close out of this. Now we need to change the way this looks. We don't have a proper title, and in older versions you'll have a legend that you'll need to delete. So first we're going to change the title to Fraser Experimental Forest, which is where the data came from. Alright. Now we want to add a y-axis, so I'm going to go to Format. Oh, sorry, Design. And Chart Element, this is for this version, and I'm going to give an axis title, a vertical axis title. And that title is going to be air temperature C. Now I want to insert a symbol here so that I can do the degrees sign. So I'm going to find my symbol and search for it in my list of symbols here. Here it is. Lucky find. And insert. So it already inserted, it didn't close. So it's inserted, now I'm going to close that and delete the extra one, close my parentheses, and press enter. And I also want to add a horizontal axis. And that one's going to be Julian Day in 2003, and press enter. So using those same steps that we just did, I would like you also to create a graph with RH in column L. So I'm going to take a break here and do that and come back. So here is the second graph that we've created. Notice that this one has a vertical axis labeled relative humidity in percent, and the same y-axis of Julian Day 2003. But this is for relative humidity, this is temperature. Now, and you want to click Save. Make sure you save your work. So we're going to move on to using pivot tables. And pivot tables are amazingly handy tools for summarizing large amounts of data. So one thing I want you to notice here is we've got temperature and RH data has a lot of ups and downs, and so it's really hard to see the general trend that's going on here. So in this section we're going to summarize this information so that we have a smoother line to see a little bit more clearly how the weather data is moving. So the first thing we're going to do is create a pivot table. On the Insert tab, you have the option for pivot table right here. And it gives me a couple choices. First it wants me to choose the range for the table, which it selects all of the information. You can see this moving green dashed line here. And also wants me to select where I want to put the pivot table. We want it to be on a new worksheet, and we want it the whole table, so we can just click OK. Notice now that our raw data tab is first. I'm actually going to drag this sheet to the second page and label that pivot table. So you can see the pivot table fields box over here. And we need to check the box for day RTM. Notice that it shows up over there. And we want it to be in the row labels box, so I'm going to drag it over here. So I've just grabbed it, right-clicked, and drug it over there. We also want to check the air temperature average and RH average, and make sure those both go in the value field settings box. And in this version it just says values. Right now they are the sum, but we don't really care about the sum of the temperature. We want the average. So I'm going to go into value field settings, and I'm going to select average. I'm going to do the same thing for RH. Okay. Now you can see that we have the average air temperature and RH for each of these days. Instead of, so because there were multiple observations on each day, it summarizes that information for each of the observations on those days. Very slick. We can't create graphs or plots directly from a pivot table, so we need to copy all this information and paste it outside of the pivot table. Slide it down. We don't need the grand total. Copy. And we're going to go to E2 here and paste it. There we are, and I'm going to double click here to expand these titles out. So first we're going to change our labels here. For E1 we want to label it Julian Day. I want this one to be air temp in Celsius, and this one to be RH. Now I thought I did that there. So we'll insert again, symbol, insert. There we go. And RH is in percent. Okay, now we want to highlight these three columns, and again go to Insert, Smooth Lines. Now what you'll see here is we've got two lines and they're not overlapping, which is not really useful for us. So we need to add a secondary axis, and that's what we're going to do next. In Series Option, so first we want to click on a line. Let's click on the line for RH right here, and Format Data Series, and we want a secondary axis. And so this here, it automatically creates that, but again, just like we did before, we have this extra space. We need to go ahead and edit our x-axis again. So let's click on x-axis, format axis, and again change it to 45 and 95, and change the positioning to low. There we are. And now we apply our labels. Go and add our chart element and add different labels. For the bottom, the primary horizontal, we've got Julian Day 2003, and vertical, this is our temperature average air temperature and C. Now if I were smart, I would have copied that little degrees symbol. I didn't have to keep on going back here, but I didn't. There we are. And for our secondary axis, we want to add another title. And secondary vertical axis here, I'm not sure why the picture looks that way. And we will type average relative humidity in percent. And enter. And we're going to change our title to Fraser Experimental Forest. And click Save. Now in this case we do want to keep the legend because it is useful to see which line is what, but here now you can see how temperature moves and relative humidity moves as the days progress.